So let's jump in. We've got a great first question. Do you want to go ahead and read it?
Sure, I will read it.
Okay.
Regarding avoidance that Dr. Julie spoke about, how do you know the difference between avoiding a past issue and being fearful of the issue which keeps you quiet?
Yeah. So we read this question a couple of times. I think that there's different key pieces, and we were really working to understand what we think the individual is seeking to best get a sense of. And I want to start out by saying that the concept of avoidance, for the most part, and I'm going to risk to say about 99.9% of the time, is driven by something that is underneath.
Right.
Okay. We don't avoid just because we're lazy, just because we're not motivated.
We don't care.
Or we don't care. We really avoid because something else is going on underneath the surface. So I think the first thing, as this wonderful community member recognizes, is when you are avoiding, right? So you want to be able to kind of stop and recognize, hey, this is really important to me, or this is something that I need to look into healing or working on, and I'm not doing it. So let me look at the reasons why.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then oftentimes underneath that, kind of broader concept or behavior of avoiding are other emotional processes like fear, okay, or overwhelm, or sometimes lack of skill, right?
Yeah, not knowing how to do it. Maybe you want to address something, but you don't really know even how to start.
Yeah.
Which can then lead to overwhelm,
right.
Which could lead to fear. I mean, they're all really tied together.
Yeah. So it's so important to then look at that. And there's like two parts to these questions or to this question. And I think, again, recognizing that avoidance does not happen in isolation. Okay. So there is always a legitimate reason, even though sometimes it's on an unconscious or a subconscious level, right? We want to make that subconscious process conscious. So we want to be able to explore within ourselves, when I think about addressing this issue, when I think about changing this behavior, or when I feel about it, what are the feelings that come up? So it might be then intense fear, okay? But then we actually even want to go a step further. If it's intense fear, what am I afraid of?
Right.
Okay.
Yep. And it could be a lot of fears, that are all bundled up in kind of a messy mix. So it could be a fear of just the intensity of the emotion that you might feel if you were to address this issue. It could be a fear of, if it involves another person, or any kind of rejection, criticism, or judgment in their response.
It might be a fear of feeling the pain.
Right, absolutely.
Of just kind of that experience of like, oh my gosh, this hurts so much. Am I literally going to live through it?
Right.
Okay. So that's then when we tend to back up and we want to avoid, we want to kind of undo and go away from addressing whatever it is that is bringing on that intensity of emotion. Okay.
Yeah, and I would add another piece to that too, is what are then the beliefs that you have about yourself if you were to feel that fear or face that thing that you are avoiding? So Dr. Julie and I use the language of blocking beliefs, and maybe you've heard us mention that. But blocking beliefs are beliefs that you have about yourself. It could be about other things as well, but in this context, beliefs about yourself that block you from taking the action or going through the healthy process that you actually want to go through. And so,
so I won't be able to handle the pain. Okay. What would be another one?
Yeah, I can't handle it. It would, I hear a lot, it would destroy me.
Yes.
It would
Yeah.
just kind of obliterate my ability to function and carry on with my day. Or I might be faced with, changes that I need to make that I'm just not prepared to face.
Yeah. I'm going to go crazy.
Yeah.
Okay. Sometimes there's that sense of, I'm literally going to fragment inside if I let myself go into, an abuse memory or the feelings that are associated with a past trauma.
Yeah.
Okay. Like it literally is going to shatter me. Okay. So when we talk about these things, of course, the first reaction you're going to have is let me avoid. Nobody wants to continue to go through that pain. But if you do not, and hopefully going through it with skills and, support and little baby step by baby step, right? Then you will learn that you can actually live through it. And every experience that you have of not avoiding, going through the emotion and or the experience that you fear you won't be able to handle, and the ability to handle it.
Yeah.
And
see
then
that you survive.
To see that you survive, and that then the experience and or the feeling actually dissipates on the other side of it. Okay. The more you go through that, then the less your psyche steps in the next time and says, we need to avoid. Because avoidance is a coping mechanism and sometimes an unconscious defense mechanism. But once yourself and your psyche knows that you can handle it, that compulsion to avoid, right, is not always going to kind of come in as that automatic default.
And what is a common way that you might avoid? Were you going to say that?
I was just thinking that. Sure. And of course, you go for it.
Well, of course, inside the mind of an emotional eater, I mean, we're looking at one of the symptoms that is a byproduct of avoidance, right? And so, one of the ways that you cope and manage your avoidance is vis-a-vis overeating.
Yes.
Other people might overshop. Other people might gamble or overdrink or overwork. There's lots of ways.
The covers over your head.
Right. There's lots of ways to avoid. Overeating is one of those ways. So if your sense of self within says, I can handle this, I don't need to avoid this, I would like to avoid this, this is uncomfortable, and I understand that going through this is actually going to get me more of what I want, I'm going to feel better. If that urge to avoid goes away, guess what else goes away? The way in which you avoid.
Yeah.
All right. And that's where then we can see more of the recovery from your eating behavior.
Yeah, exactly. So next time you find yourself overeating when you're not physically hungry and you start criticizing yourself, I think instead of criticizing, it would be good to say, am I avoiding something that then my psyche came in with this default setting and is driving me to eat? Okay. And if the answer is, I was supposed to do that paper, or I was going to call that friend that I'm really kind of upset with. Okay. Or my therapist wants me to journal about the session that we just had or feelings that came up. And now all of a sudden I'm in front of the refrigerator. Okay. Then you can start doing this process about, what's the feeling underneath the avoidant behavior? What are the sub feelings and or fears that are associated with that? And then how can you address it in a healthy, direct way so it does not have to get avoided, primarily through the use of food.
And through all of this, I just want to, remind you all to have so much compassion and respect for this part of you that is scared.
Yeah.
Because avoidance is really another form of protection, right? I mean, it has a high price tag and it can actually cause a lot of destruction in your life. But really, truly at the end of the day, the goal of the part of you that is avoiding is to protect you from feeling fear, from feeling pain, from feeling scared or rejected or whatever it might be. And so just having a lot of compassion and respect for that part of you that is trying to protect you. And, working with that part of seeing that, like, okay, I don't need to protect myself in that way. I can protect myself with my voice. I can protect myself with my boundaries. I can protect myself with healthy support people in my life who I can go to and I can trust. So finding other ways to protect yourself so that avoidance doesn't have to be that dysfunctional way.
Yeah, and as you're talking, I just got this image of kind of like going and holding the hand of that part of yourself that's so afraid to move forward into whatever the task or the feeling is. And having that wonderful kind of conscious adult part of yourself saying, I'll walk this with you. Okay, so we
we'll
can do this together. We'll be okay. And then moving forward through it. Yeah.
That is the deeper work.
Very beautiful.
Yeah.
Yay.
Okay.
Thank you so much for asking this question. It's a really, really important one. We're really glad that you asked it.
Good job.
Yeah. Okay.